So this part now goes in, it continues the work of identifying your beliefs and the subconscious beliefs, the conscious beliefs that build your world. I will now talk about mapping these beliefs. Sometimes it's helpful to write this out. It is actually pretty necessary. If it's triggering, take the time that you need. Going too deep, too quick can be really, really difficult for people to come out of. And you don't always know what you need and what you don't need. So really listening to yourself. If you're feeling a sort of heightened nervous system as you go through some of these processes, please reach out to your therapist, reach out to your community, reach out to yourself, that you can take care of yourself, and make sure you slow down in this process. So when you are identifying your beliefs, for example, about money, what are the things that you were taught about money? At the end of the day, are you someone who believes that spending money means that you're a bad person? Do you believe that rich people are bad people? That's one of mine. But not everybody. Just having money doesn't make one bad. It makes someone, in my mind, seem like they are part of the system more. But underlying that is a belief that, this world's systems are bad, right? So I am always coming up against that belief. And what has allowed me to shift that belief is the goodness that I feel in connection with other people in my communities, in my friendships, in my loving relationships. And I have that privilege. And I've also worked very hard to allow myself to be in relationship with others, and also had to work through the deep judgment I have of myself and other people. Judging others was a way that I created discernment in my life growing up. So it's a big process of identifying, if you have one belief, what's the belief below that, right? So I just showed you an example of that. It goes deep into your past. And as somebody who grew up religious and had to hide what I truly believed about the teachings that were being told to me, I had to hide and I had to judge. I had to discern. So judgment in order to survive in that scenario. So I am constantly coming up against subconscious beliefs where I am judging others and judging myself. But when I started to believe that I deserved ease, it was a long process. It first started by me saying to myself, I know that I can find a job where I don't have to work 9 to 5 or 8 to 6, 5 days a week. And I can feel like I'm doing something good in the world, but it does not have to be so intense. It doesn't have to be soul-sucking and intense. And even before that, when I worked in advertising, I manifested a lateral move into nonprofits because first I was able to see something that was slightly different that I thought would be better, which was better in many ways. And I sought out the work that could fulfill me better, not feel so difficult day to day for me as a person. And then when I burnt myself out from overachieving in that nonprofit world, I wanted to manifest a different job, right? A different job. And so I only sought out jobs that were part-time but paid a lot of money. But I wanted to stay, I thought I needed to stay in a field where I had that experience. So I sought out, I had to do all this work around just like, why can't I take a break? I had to reach my burnout point, and I decided, you know what? It's not going to hurt anybody to go work 3 days a week, right? So I'm going to look for jobs that work 3 days a week so that I can write, because I need my creative practice. And after a few months of searching, I was finally able to leave that initial nonprofit job and go find work that was fulfilling, something that I could do. And I worked there for quite some time, a couple years, 3 days a week, only having to go into the office 1 day a week. And it was then I really started to realize that I was putting those pressures on myself to overwork. I was putting those pressures on myself. And this process continued for another 10 years, where I was not able to get out of that cycle of working into burnout. Even though I worked 3 days a week, I still was extremely stressed. And that process of being stressed was kind of an engine that kept me going at that time. But it took me so long to realize I do not want to work hard. That is a fantasy of white supremacy and a fantasy of capitalism that makes me a good, productive consumer of the world. Makes me easier to extract from. I got angry about that. It pisses me off. And rather than feeling helpless, I decided that it's possible to to bring in abundance and still do less, and not have to play this game of this cycle. And to be honest, I'm still learning this lesson, but in many ways, which I'll talk about more farther along, I have been taught by the universe, by this flow, mysterious flow of the universe, that this is going to be a lifelong lesson. But along the way, huge things have happened. And one of those things, in the last few years, I will talk about this directly relating to shifting my subconscious beliefs and taking action in my outer world to meet the new belief system that I'm putting in place. It isn't a thing that happened overnight and where my life is suddenly better. It is a process that I'm going through, and a process that I want to share with others. My story, and also the sort of system that I've seen happening around that story, because I've had a lot of positive changes happen in my life. So one of those things being that I received all these things. I was able to live in a beautiful home. I find fulfilling work, find a job that really allowed me to have the flexibility I needed in my schedule, which I have now in nonprofit work, and allowed me to finally step into becoming a poet. I got a full ride to grad school locally in the Bay Area for creative writing, which, if you look out there and are looking for an MFA, many people have to move states to get a full ride for their MFA in writing. I was given 2 offers for a full ride here in the Bay Area because I wanted to stay working at the nonprofit. Not the 3-day-a-week job that I had. I got laid off from that, actually. But that layoff was a blessing in disguise, because I realized it would allow me, if I had unemployment just for a few months, to really focus on my writing, which I wasn't able to do even with the 3 days a week, because I was kind of, not taking not able to really make the changes that I needed. But I did some writing, and I took that writing to apply to grad school after I was laid off from that job, right? So there was a mysterious chain of events that whenever something negative happened, I would frame it as, what am I supposed to learn in this moment, and how can I move forward? Not every horrible thing that happens in life is a lesson, right? So you don't have to think that way. In fact, I think as a part of the grief and the anger that arises, you can say, fuck that, it's not a lesson, and really feel your feelings about that. But in these cases, when I'm looking for ways to resource myself, when it is something that I can call a lesson, and not something truly heart ending that I can call, that I have the privilege of calling a lesson. In this case, I thought to myself, losing my job, getting laid off, right, because a new position was being made. What could I do? And I thought to myself, I'm going to survive on this as long as I can, and I'm going to go for my dreams of being an artist. And I started that journey. It got me into this job where I'm working now with artists all the time, and able to also be on this wellness journey. And I also manifested and created the change in my life where I could receive a house. So I'm living in this house now, and it was not just me, it was also my community, right? Being in community with others, that I received a grant that helped me on a down payment on a house. And then my family arrived to support me, in a way that I would never have asked for prior to this experience of getting into this program. And that is not something that I manifested, unless you are of the mind that we create our realities, which, for people who are traumatized, that's not something we want to hear. That's not, we create these horrible experiences. I don't think so. But there is some truth and mystery to creating some of our experience. And what if there is a relationship? What if there is some kind of world around us? And philosophically speaking, I know that there are many belief systems about consciousness and the way that reality is created that I am studying now and want to share with others. But for now, for the purpose of manifesting change in your life and thinking about money, thinking about opportunity, I think it is useful to give yourself credence in your experiences and to acknowledge the systems that we live within. Current manifestation, technology, or the literature, the videos on the internet, right? And the people out there who are doing a lot of incredible work, but maybe don't resonate with me personally as human beings. There's just something different about the way I see the world, and it's that we need to acknowledge these systems that we live in and acknowledge the impact of relationship and community on our ability to manifest. And so not only did I get into this house through this same model, I also, when my car broke down, I didn't have enough money to buy a new car. A friend of mine started a fundraiser, and my community showed up and helped raise money so that I could get a car. And a funny anecdote about that is when I was starting to do all this psychic work, right? All this psychic work, I was doing practice sessions with people, and this woman I met in a class said to me, she was really clairvoyant, but she was also didn't mince words and didn't express things in a very dramatic way. So sometimes she would tell people negative things in a harsh way. Sometimes she would say positive things in a really extravagant way. So she told me, man, I see you getting a car, fancy car. Someone's gonna give you a nice car. And it was about receiving a really nice car. It was like fancy sports car. A couple years later, my car broke down, fundraiser was had, and then through my bestest friends in the community, I bought a 2005 Toyota Camry. Not a sports car, not a fancy car, but I did receive a car from my community, from the generosity of my community. And did I manifest it? In a way, I always knew not to worry about that old car. And it broke down as I came back from Korean drumming in community for an event. I dropped some people off. I drove into my driveway, and it died as I drove into my driveway. And I thought, now's the time. But I never had this fear, even though I didn't have the money to buy a new car. I never had this fear. I just said, I trust that what will happen will happen. If I have to walk places and take the bus again, that's okay. You know, I had the privilege of being able to note that not everybody has that. They need their car to work, right? So the fear, but this experience, these small experiences of teaching me that I will be carried by not only the universe, but my community and my people, right? You can begin in small ways. Like, man, I really want a sandwich today. I'm really wanting a sandwich. Wait a week and see who comes up with a sandwich. You know, there are little ways you can teach yourself to trust and use the experiences that are within reach. Because I never would have thought the experiences that I'm explaining today would be possible. And it is not only the outside world taking care of me, which it doesn't always, it's also me being ready and prepared to receive the gift that was given. So it is really, really important